Hold on. Hey, hello, class. Is your favorite vampire teacher, Alistair Novum, and today we're here with our very first episode of the InfoDump podcast. Uh, this is the first time we're doing it, so there may be a little growing pains, but I'm proud to welcome our very first guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, for those that don't know, I am MokuMekaPilot. I'm a MekaPilot VTuber and also a massive gearhead, and we'll get into that today.
Awesome. Why don't we just go ahead and get right into it? So you said gearhead. What are we talking? Like, I don't know. You like Gearbox games? I don't know.
No, for me that means I'm a big car guy. I'm someone who always prefers to work on their own vehicle and finds out as much about it as possible. You could call myself like a hobby mechanic, but I'm not like professionally trained in any way. But though I have been like guided by several professional friends who are mechanics. So I've gotten like big help on like certain projects, getting things done to my vehicles that I do own and stuff like that. So I do know a pretty good bit about like what I'm doing, but I'm not in any way, professional or anything like that. Do not take any advice about what I say here. So, if you take anything that I say here and you break your car, I'm not responsible for that.
This is probably the best way this could have gone with this being your topic, because I am not that at all, and I'm very interested about learning about cars and stuff like that. Like, I literally have my car currently in the shop. It's been there for about a week.
A week? What the? Oh boy, that doesn't usually. If it's for more than a day, that usually is never a good sign.
Yeah, no, it's running me up quite a bill, huh?
Ooh.
I mean,
but though I mean, I've been there before. I've been to the point where I've taken, I want to say, let me think. When my first car broke down, I had to take almost like half the engine apart to a point.
Ooh.
I think that was probably like the deepest I've ever been into an engine. Stands for one project, but we'll get into that today.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it unless you like want to hear about my problems, because I think it might be relevant, but if you would rather go on to what you want to talk about, that's fine.
Sure. I mean, for me, I think a love of cars for me kind of started when I was actually pretty young, because one whole side of my family, they're all they're car people or car lovers in some way. I mean, even my one uncle actually was at one point actually a amateur street racer at one point, and he has some stories that he's told us, but not very many. But he had some notoriety back in the day.
I am now going to look up the statute of limitations on that, or
Oh, believe me, this is at least about 40-50 years ago.
okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess that makes
we're talking like his street racing days date back to like the 60s and 70s. So
that's
but yeah, it was sort of like back in like the more Wild West days of hot rodding and everything like that, when back in like those times, street racing was much more much more prevalent, and also like it was sort of more traveled by like word of mouth rather than social media, because social media didn't exist back then, so you had to kind of like know a guy that knew a guy, kind of like back in those days.
Really? Social media didn't exist back then? Oh, the more I learn. No, I get it. So you've been doing it a while. What was your like? Did you ever like tinker around with one of your family's cars, or do you help them out on that?
Oh, all the time. I mean, like the current kind, I guess you would kind of say, like, obsession of our family right now is a car that's been in our family for about 25 years now. We actually found it in a barn of all places. And we have restored it to a certain point. It still needs a little tiny bit of work to get to the point that we say it's it's to the point that we want to like, keep it as is, but it's pretty damn close. There's like a few little tiny things I want to like do to it to kind of take it across the finish line, but it's kind of like been it's like the one thing in my family. I've always told, my parents, it's like, if you get rid of this, you will never hear the end of it. Because it's kind of like been like our sort of like the one thing that's kind of like united both my parents and I over like a very common interest the most. And that's us being like, really big car people and kind of getting into like car culture in a pretty big way.
Okay. I've got a few questions from that.
Sure.
First of all, in a barn?
Yeah. So the whole story was back in the late 90s and early 2000s, we went to this huge car event that actually takes over a city in my state for a whole weekend. And we really fell in love with like what they were all doing, because they would cruise up and down the main streets. There were like, car hangouts everywhere you went. And stuff like that. And we kind of caught the bug, and then we just kind of said to ourselves, we need to find a car and actually get into this. So we started searching for, God, I think that probably took about 2-3 years of searching for us. I mean, we saw all sorts of different cars out there. We looked at different Chevrolets. We looked at maybe like one Pontiac, one Buick. I think we looked at one Ford very briefly, but though we're more of like, the General Motors family people. That's kind of like what we've been for most of our lives, as, loyalists to either Chevrolet or some form of it. That's what we kind of came across. And we found this one car in a barn, that was stored in a barn for about, I want to say it was like about 20 something years in Pennsylvania. It still ran and drove to a point, but it was very, the seats were kind of shredded. There was no headliner on the inside of the roof. There was barely any exhaust left on it. So it just had, two header pipes coming straight out the engine, and that's about it. And it was as original as it could be. And, we found it and we actually brought it home, and we spent about, I want to say about another 2 years actually putting it back together. So we actually like put like a whole brand new interior in it. We had a really good friend of ours come and restore the paint on it back to a certain point. We had all new chrome trim actually put on it, all sorts of different stuff that we've done to it ever since. And man, do I have some stories about this thing.
Okay. Let me ask some general questions about that whole process. Then we can get on to more specific fun stories you have. But my question is your goal to, when you're like fixing this project car, is your goal to restore it back to how it originally was, or to put your own spin on it and just make it workable and then make it yours?
Well, for me, I want to try and strike a balance, because this car actually is worth quite a bit if you restore it back to factory condition. So there's like a certain point that I want to take it to, but not take it so far that if I have no choice but to actually, sell this car off, I want to give it to a good home. And if someone wants to restore it back to factory shape, it will not take much work to actually put it back to the way it should be. So there's a very specific balance that I want to strike, making it my own, but also still maintaining the original spirit of what this car was.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, when you say stuff, when you said like this took years, in my mind, here's how the process would work, and you can correct me when I'm done. I'm imagining it's more of a matter of finding the parts, waiting on the parts to arrive through shipping, and then installing them. Is that where a lot of the time?
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. We had a lot of time searching for, very odd little tiny components for things like on the interior, on, like the things like the dash cluster is actually a little bit difficult to actually come by in stock form. You could do custom ones that are actually pretty pretty easy to actually, do on your own. But we wanted to do a very original dash cluster in this. Let me think what else was actually really hard to find. The rear bumper on this car is actually quite difficult to come by in its original condition. So it's a little bit difficult to actually come by. And then there's, other parts that are, a little bit more difficult, like things like, door handles, stuff like that. That you kind of like got to go around and look at different little swap meets or car shows where people are selling, old stock that they may have been holding on to over these past decades and stuff like that. Or there are companies now that are doing like reproductions of 100% factory accurate pieces for these cars.
Okay.
And that's kind of like what we did, is that we kept ordering like bits and pieces of it over the over the months and years, and we kind of put it into doing each part of it in like phases and getting up to the point that it is now.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm just now realizing we never established what kind of car this is.
Okay, so the car is a 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. Specifically, it's an SS 396 model, but it's been the engine in it has been upgraded to a much larger displacement size. So it's unofficially a 454, but it's but if you actually were to document the original car, it's originally an SS 396.
Is that the one you're sharing all the pictures on Discord?
Yes.
All right, let me pull that up real fast, just to show the audience. Here, where did I put it?
Yeah, start with the still photos. The video is just of a little sample of the engine running.
Oh, we shouldn't show the license plate, should I?
No, actually, it's a classic license plate, so it's actually not the original.
Oh, okay, good.
It's not like what it's actually. It's not what it's actually like.
No, I meant about that other car. I meant about that other car in there.
Oh, it's all right.
Okay.
I'm kind of not. I'm not even. You don't even really see it.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Yeah, this.
Yeah. So yeah. This is my family's baby.
Wow. Do you have any pictures of how it used to look like when you first found it?
I believe we do, but I would have to go digging in a very old photo archive that is buried in my basement.
That is fair. I cannot blame you for that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like old Polaroid photos I have of this, because this was like back when we first had the car, around like 99, 2000, I want to say.
Okay. Wow. Huh. I'm just looking over it.
But I mean, I can kind of like, give you like the full story of like what this car is, because this particular model of car Chevrolet does not make anymore.
Really? Well,
yep.
I guess it makes sense.
So yeah, so the original story is that this car originally started in 1964 as the Chevrolet Malibu. And it was a small, either 2-door or 4-door coupe layout. And then the Chevelle name actually is a trim level for it. So it was actually known as the Malibu Chevelle at one point. When you ordered like the Chevelle level trim on it, you had like, fancier chrome trim on the exterior. You had bigger, larger displacement engine options, different interior options, and other little bits and bobs like that. And then specifically, one of the rarer examples of the early on Malibu Chevelles was actually the option on, if you actually were to like look at like the original documentation, the original number that you would actually fill out on the order forms at the dealership was known as option number Z16 or Z16. So that's what most people actually know of like the first generation Chevelles as, were Z16s. And then they sort of like burgeoned out over the years into like being their own trim and option level, which was the Chevelle. There was the Chevelle, and then there was the Chevelle SS, which is what I have, which is the one with the pinnacle engine options and everything in it. You could call this like almost like the fully loaded version of the car. because if you were to like just do like a regular um Chevy Malibu, you would have not as much chrome trim on the exterior, and you would also have a much smaller engine. Like mainly they came with like either early on it was a 327 cubic inch V8, or then I believe it became a 350. And then when you went to the Chevelle SS models, like I said, you either got the 396 or the big boy, which was the 454. And that came in two flavors. By the peak of the muscle car wars, which was around 1970 to 1971, which was either option LS5 or LS6. And those designated the horsepower level for which version of the engine that you got. LS5 was what was it, 454 cubic inches and 375 horsepower. And then there was the LS6 option, which is the big dog, which was 454 cubic inches, and it was advertised as 390 horsepower, but unofficially it was north of 420. If you really turned up like a couple of little tiny settings on the carburetor, then it was a monster for its time.
Can't imagine that'd be very good on the lifespan of the car, because in my mind it's like overclocking a GPU.
Not exactly. I mean, like these were like, much tougher engines back in the day. I mean, like, back in these days, the engine block was made out of cast iron, so they were pretty hardy. So you could throw quite a bit at these engines before they actually like started being stressed out. I mean, like you're talking like little tiny options on the carburetor, just changing out what's known as the jets, which are, how much fuel actually enters the engine at the carburetor. So what you did is that if you just changed that up and changed a couple little tiny pieces of the internals, I mean, you could easily crank out, 400, 500, even more horsepower out of them, which is what actually I have in it now, is a 454 cubic inch engine. I could kind of like go over like some of the technical specifications of it. Originally it's an iron block 454 cubic inch engine that has been machined and actually bored out. So if you actually were to like do the math on it, it has been bored what they call like 30 over, which is 030 what is it, 030, I think it's 030 of an inch or something like that over the bore size of the cylinders. So if you actually were to math it out, the cubic inches actually have been increased to, I think it's like 462 is actually what it is now. And according to all the math that I've done on the power figures of what this engine makes now, it makes about 620 horsepower.
That's nearly double of what it was originally, right?
Almost double. It's about 1.5 times.
Okay, yeah. Right.
And that's all mainly done just through a little bit of machine work and a much tougher, lower rotating assembly, which would have been the crankshaft, pistons, piston rods, and also a much larger set of cylinder heads, which were the exhaust and intake ports on it were expanded in size and machined out to actually add for better fuel and airflow. So that's why it makes that much power out of it.
Okay. I guess I never really thought about the shape of like, there are so many parts of that I've never really thought about like how much that would matter. But now that you bring it up, yeah, like all those
it matters quite a bit. I mean, like things like, increasing, cylinder size, especially on things like the ports on your intake manifold. Increasing the amount of air that your engine gets is a huge power gain in of itself. So there's tons of ways that you can do that just by, increasing how much air your car takes in. And you can actually see very, very noticeable gains in how much power that thing will put out. Which is why, you see like, advertisements for what people call like, a cold air intake and stuff like that. It's not really like marketing speak. It is to a point, but there is truth to it. And that what that usually ends up being is that it's a more direct air intake for the engine to actually take in a lot more air much faster.
Okay. All right. So there was something I don't want to forget about during when you were talking. You mentioned something in passing that I sort of want to go back to and just get a quick explanation. You said something called the Muscle Car Wars.
Yes. So the whole story of that was in the early 1960s up until the big fuel crisis of the early 1970s, where gas prices sort of like, went very high for the time. And also it had to do with I believe it was a deal with OPEC. I believe it had to do. I can't remember exactly like how the whole thing went down. It was, I believe it was like 1972 or 73. No, it was 73. And it was when OPEC, or APEC, if you want to get technical, which was the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, which is basically the Middle East, which was, they were implementing a total oil embargo against countries that had supported Israel at any point during what was it? The Yom Kippur War at that point. So basically what had happened was that if there was any signs of like interference in the Yom Kippur War, they were putting embargoes on oil exports to those countries. So it was, places mainly in the West. So it was like, the UK, the US, Canada, and I believe Japan at one point was involved in this whole like fuel crisis thing. But up until the fuel crisis happened was that in the 60s was a big demand for big two-door sports cars that kind of became their own genre of vehicles that people started to like really relate to in this at that time. And then you had people kept engineering these cars to be more and more powerful to certain points. You had Chevrolet kind of getting in there with multiple different cars. You had the Camaro, you had the Chevelle, and then you also had the Corvette to a point. And then they also had their other brands like Pontiac with the which was people actually consider one of the original muscle cars, which was the GTO. And that came out in 1965 as a 1966 model. And that was like one of the first, like they considered like a true muscle car, which is usually two doors, big V8 engine, and rear wheel drive. And typically, they always made somewhere north of 300 horsepower. And obviously, as I said, when you got to like the very end of the muscle car wars at about 1970 to 71, I mean, these cars are making like, north of 400 horsepower, which was quite a bit for that time. I mean, nowadays, 400 is nothing. I mean, like your average, mid-range car makes that kind of power. I mean, that when you get into like, stuff like the Dodge Challengers right before they were kind of taken off production. I mean, they were making like, up to, I think the most powerful one you could get for the street was 1,000 horsepower.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Dodge Demon. That was 1,000 horsepower.
All right. So this is going to be more of a general question because I'm now thinking about it, and this is where my mind goes sometimes. How do you measure horsepower?
So it's very nebulous as to where it came from, but like the popular belief is that horsepower originally is from the math of how much weight a horse can pull over a certain distance, or basically how much how quickly a horse can pull its own weight over a given distance.
Okay.
Is that was a common like myth of like where it started.
I mean, yeah, it does sound about right given the name.
Yeah, it's basically, it just was like a measurement of work, So at one point, basically, it's at one point you could basically think about it in like a few different metrics. Is that one imperial horsepower is basically a horse pulling 550 pounds by about over the distance of about 1 foot in 1 second. So that's 1 horsepower, basically. Or if you want to put it into electrical terms, it's about 750 watts.
Oh, okay.
But the origin of horsepower actually came way before the automobile. It actually dates back to when steam engines were the big thing. Back in about, I think it was like about like this, it's either the late 1600s or the 1700s. Which was when they were comparing, how much work could a steam engine do versus how much work could a couple of horses do. And by a certain point, when the steam engine actually became like the big thing, is that they started measuring them in horsepower. So there was a way that you could figure out, like, doing a bit of like simple math, and actually through a simple exercise, you could actually calculate horsepower accurately. And that's how they kind of came up with it.
Okay. Because, yeah, I was about to say, like, horsepower sounds like it's a thing that applies more, like, right off the bat, sounds like it's something that applies to trains or truck or, like, big delivery trucks or cargo ships, I guess.
To a point, though. Usually, when you get into, like, nautical power, they don't measure them typically in horsepower. I believe they measure them in... it's the measurement that that they use over in the UK and Europe. I forget what it is. Because I'm not usually too familiar with like how they measure it in European units, but that's usually when you get into like measuring like the power output of like anything that is on water. Though typically some people still do calculate in horsepower, though usually it's not as relevant as it is to like more road going vehicles.
Yeah, we do freedom units around here. Okay. All right, so that's a pretty good explanation. So, you want to do a small mini game real fast?
Sure. Try me.
So, how good are you at identifying classic cars? Like, you could look at a car and say, I know exactly what that is.
People have said I'm pretty good at it, which was kind of a funny story at that was that at one point people said that I'm so good at sometimes identifying vehicles that I should have taken up a career as a police officer, because I could easily identify a car like that.
I'm just sort of imagining a police scanner being like really tired as you're going into detail on every little facet of the car. Like, we just...
No, I mean, like, it could be like one thing, like I see a car go by me and I could easily like tell you like what it was just by looking at it for like about a couple of seconds.
Okay. Well, how good are you at movie trivia?
Depends upon the movie.
Good. This should be interesting. I'm about to do some screen sharing. And I will be showing it on stream. We'll be going through a small quiz of Guess the Car. Moment while I get it set up. So basically, the rules are going to be simple. Alright, do you see it on Discord?
It's still... I got a little spinning ball. There we go.
Alright, and now I'll be pulling it up for the audience. Whoop. I'm really sorry about the default looking, the default, but I just kind of threw this together last minute.
Default PowerPoint looking ass.
Yeah, this is how I set up all my quizzes. I mean, it works.
It does. Okay, try me.
All right, so here's how it goes. I'm about to show you a picture of a famous car. You're going to have to name what the model is, the closer the better, and what movie is it from. Now,
Okay, because there have been some pretty famous movie cars out there.
Yeah,
I mean, there's like
yeah, threw together like.
I mean, there's a lot out there that a lot of like, us, car people like really, enjoy as like some of the most legendary movie cars out there. I mean, I can rattle them off after the game.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they're not in here.
We can go into that. I didn't include many. I just included like a couple because I didn't know like how much I should, and also was a little pressed for time. Note to self: ask about the topic much earlier in the planning process. When I do more of this in the future, because
lesson learned.
I'll go out and say it. I thought we were going to talk about mechas for like a week. My bad. I probably should have checked.
No, that's okay. I was, for me, I wanted to throw a curveball, just to say it's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I have a chance to be something a little bit whack out here.
Yeah, unfortunately, that curveball hit me in the head. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. The first car. Pretty easy start.
Okay. Oh, that's easy. That's a DeLorean DMC-12, and that's the car from Back to the Future.
Yeah, there we go.
Specifically, I believe the year that it came out was I was about to say it was 81 or 82.
Yeah, wow, you got that down to the year. I knew the term DeLorean. I didn't know anything else.
Now, though, the coolest part is that the only reason why people think the DeLorean is cool is this movie. The actual DeLorean DMC-12 is an absolute piece of junk.
I've heard that
it had a really bad engine, and it was built at a time in the company's namesake's owner, which was John DeLorean. He went through quite a bit of controversy when this car was made. Even though it does have like some one very revolutionary thing on it was that it has a completely stainless steel body. It has no paint. And since it's stainless steel, it doesn't rust. So if you ever find a true DeLorean and it's painted, that car is no good. Because you should not paint stainless steel. You can wrap it, but do not paint it.
We're talking, starting to make notes of conversation points I want to make later, and rapping is definitely one of them.
And then another interesting fact is that the engines in these things were built by Volvo, the Swedish car company.
Okay, so that's
was it
kind of
Volvo or was it Yamaha? No, I think it was Volvo.
All right. Also, I did not notice it had Goodyear tires until now. That's
like one of the most like iconic things about it is that if you really are going to build a really accurate DeLorean time machine, is that you have to absolutely nail the tires, and that's the Goodyear Eagle tires with the raised white letters. Okay.
There's a chance that some of these might be replicas or something, and because I'm just trying to get the images that I could transfer over.
It's entirely possible because there are tons of DeLorean time machine replicas out there. I think there's only like 2 or 3 true movie cars that are left, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe one of them is in a museum not too far from where I live.
Okay, cool. Right. The next car over, it's another easy one, but the whole point is that it's prompting discussion. I had to blur it out a little.
No, that's one of the most obvious movie cars out there. That's the Ford Explorer from Jurassic Park. Specifically, I think it was 93.
Yep, Jurassic Park. Ford Explorer. 92.
Oh, 92. I was close.
I don't know. I just sort of, while I was researching it, I was looking up dinosaurs and I found this image. What is it called?
What even?
Oh,
the more I look at it, the worse it gets. I feel like I want to take the voice of what was the really weird looking guy from the Goonies?
Sloth.
Sloth.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
That's just all I hear the longer I stare at that. Oh my god.
I don't know. Apparently it was from I found it on Reddit. It was an image of a guy looking through one of his textbooks on dinosaurs.
And that was apparently someone just thought that's what a Diplodocus looked like at one point.
Now imagine it with feathers. Oops.
Yeah.
All right. Next car. This one might be a little trickier, and might be, but like I said, I only went for some of the more obvious ones. Oh, I should have blocked him out.
Oh god, that's one of my favorite cars. That's Dom Toretto's 1969 Dodge Charger RT from the first Fast and the Furious movie, which is one of the most grossly inaccurate depictions of racing I have ever seen committed to film.
Ooh, really? That's an interesting conversation topic.
Oh god, there are so many inaccuracies to how racing should be portrayed in that movie. The most egregious involving that car is the infamous stoplight race at the very end of the movie, where it both does a burnout and does a wheelie at the same time. That is impossible, because you cannot be spinning the wheels and also standing the car on the freaking bumper, taking off, because one involves having grip, the other involves not having grip. You can't do both.
Ah, okay. That's the trick to it.
And then also one of the goofiest lines that Dom actually says right before he whips that car out was that he said the chassis twisted coming off of the line, which actually has a little bit of like truth to it. Where if you don't build a drag racing car's chassis strong enough, yes, you will actually twist the frame to a point.
Okay.
And I have a bit of a funny little story involving that actually a little bit later about my own car.
Well, I mean, there is one thing you did go wrong though.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm looking at the front end of that. That's a 70 Charger, isn't it?
Yep. It's 1970 Dodge Charger.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I knew I was close.
Yeah.
Because I always get it wrong, because I'm not very big on the Chrysler Mopar Alliance cars, so I'm not a huge expert on them. But there's a whole there's a much deeper rabbit hole to kind of dive down about, like, with different makes and models of muscle cars and stuff like that, like the in terms of like the historical documentation of muscle cars, especially from like the 60s and early 70s. The more well-documented ones are, believe it or not, are either the Chryslers or Fords. GM cars are not as easy to track the true history of, because at one point in time, GM basically lost all of the early paperwork for the production numbers and all the documentation of like their cars built before a certain point in time.
Wait, they lost it. What?
It was either lost or destroyed at some point in time. So the reason why that at some there's actually like a very popular classic car factoid is that there are which GM car was it? I believe there were more 1960, I want to say 63 or 64 Chevrolet Corvettes with the 427 cubic inch V8 in them that were sold at auction that are believed to have been made. And they cannot correctly identify that factoid 100% because all the paperwork is either impossible or difficult, or is either impossible to find or very difficult to find, and they haven't found it yet. So the only correct way to really identify if you have a GM car, especially like a rare muscle car, and you want to know that it's legit, is that you have to have the original build sheet of it from when it was at the factory. 9 times out of 10, if you know where to look, it's usually hidden either under the passenger seat or inside of the passenger seat underneath a little plastic shell. If you just peel it off, it's literally sitting right there.
Is this like the car you have, or?
Yes. So for a lot of the Chevelles, especially, they're actually really hard to identify a lot of their more rare options. So there were like some that were built with what was known as the Central Office Production Order, or known as the COPO cars, which were the cars that were special ordered through dealerships with very rare options on them. So they had stuff like aluminum block, 427 cubic inch engines. They had really unusual requests like, say, delete the radio, delete the heater, delete the air conditioning, stuff like that.
What?
And yeah, basically you could actually order those cars like stripped out, specifically for either road racing or drag racing, and you did that through doing special orders at the dealership back in those days. And there are a few dozen, a couple hundred that exists. And when they do come up and they're legit, they are worth a lot of money. The most coveted are the like the 1968, 1969 Copo Camaros. Let me actually double check and see. I believe one recently sold at auction for a very high price. Let me see. I believe one crossed the block at, I think it was Mecum. Yeah, here it is. So typically the Copo ones go for around on average about $125,000. A few of them have crossed the auction block for over $250,000. Or no, actually no, one sold for a whole lot more. I forgot about that. There was one that sold in 2022 for $1 million.
Oh, wow. No, that
Yep.
that actually makes sense.
Yeah, and it was one of only, I think there are either like about 100 of them ever built. I believe the car that sold for $1 million was, let me see. I actually just found the article on a classic car magazine that I frequent a lot. Actually, they have it right here. It was it was only just 69 Copo Camaros were built. And car number 59 sold for just a hair under $1.1 million.
Okay.
And it was the one with the all aluminum 427 V8, with the Muncie M22 transmission, which was a 4-speed manual. And it had disc brakes. I believe it had I think this was the one with a lot of the common features were deleted off of it, like the heater and the radio, which was, unusual. Like, say, a car without a radio sold for $1 million.
Okay. Honestly, my first thought is, what kind of monster would take out the air conditioning out of a car?
Believe it or not, back in those days, that was when air conditioning was an option. It wasn't standard. You actually had to like go through your order form and actually find the little option line that actually said air conditioning and check it.
Enough.
And then even speaking of like going off on a little bit of a tangent, one of the most unusual things about my Chevelle specifically, I love like laying this kind of trivia on people. Can you guess what is one of the rarest options on a 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle?
Okay, I'm guessing it's either.
I'll give you a hint. It is something it's something you cannot expect.
Okay, I'm gonna guess one of 3 things. Is that okay? It's a 3 strikes and I'm out.
Try me.
Is it the air conditioning, heater, or radio?
Nope. You got all 3 wrong.
Wow. What is it?
And you're going to laugh when you hear this. It's a light in the glove box.
What? Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
What?
believe it or not, one of the most unusual and rare options on the 1970 to 72 generation Chevelles was a light in the glove box.
I mean, did it cost
Stunned you to
extra?
silence, didn't I?
Did it just cost extra then, or?
Yes, it would actually cost it I believe it was like an option for I think it was like a couple of dollars or something like that. And it's a tiny little like push button switch that actually goes inside the glove box that had a little tiny incandescent bulb on it. I pictured like about the size of a quarter. And my Chevelle actually has one. One of the other more unusual options that actually mine comes with, because we decoded the both the build sheet and the vehicle identification number on it, because it still has the original VIN plate on the inside of the engine bay. My car, even though it is painted with white stripes on it, it did not come with stripes on it. It was actually a solid color car, which was actually also another unusually rare option for Chevelle SSs. Almost a huge amount of them came with a stripe package on them, but mine, it turns out, was one of the few that didn't come with stripes on it.
Huh. That's hey, you gotta. I almost called it a shiny car, like it's a Pokemon. What?
No, I mean you're totally not wrong in that kind of like comparison.
Oh, okay, for me, I guess. All right.
Oh, moving on with the quiz. What else you got for me?
I've got two more for you. This one might be a little bit different. You may be able to get the car, but I'm not sure you'll get the movie. A little bit more niche.
I don't know. I've identified some pretty neat. Oh my god, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wow.
The 1958. That is a 1958 Plymouth Fury from the movie Christine.
Huh. I thought that one might actually get you.
No, that's one of my favorite horror movies of all time right there, man.
Fair enough. By the way, fun fact.
And also,
oh no, go ahead.
Oh, actually, I wanted to say a little bit of trivia about this car in particular, is that this movie is entirely responsible for driving up the value of the 58 Plymouth Fury. Because when they shot this movie, they destroyed somewhere north of about, I want to say, I think it was like about 50 of them.
Okay, when you said it drove up the price, my mind was like, oh, it made the car a lot more popular. People wanted to buy it because they liked the movie. No, it's because they kept destroying it. Okay. That's something kind of funny.
Yeah, and it's because that the 58 Plymouth Fury especially was actually a very low production year for that car in particular. So there weren't that many to actually even begin with by the time this movie was shot. So they ended up having to destroy a lot of them for like a lot of the iconic sequences in the movie, when Christine either like gets wrecked, crushed, or the famous scene where it regenerates and stuff like that. That's a real car actually being destroyed, basically played backwards. The way they actually did that shot was that what they did is that they hollowed out the inside of the car, so there's no engine in anything inside of it. And what they did is that they attached a bunch of hydraulic rams and chains to the insides of like the fender and the bumper. And what they did is they basically just pulled the car into itself and basically recorded it crumbling. And then the way they made the car look like it was regenerating, they literally just played the film backwards.
Oh, wow. No, I knew it was like, I knew the backwards part, but I didn't quite know the rest of the details.
Yeah, so that's how they did like the famous regeneration scene. And there's all the other famous scenes of like when one of my favorite kills is when it does the scene where it crushes the guy in the alleyway by basically shoving itself into a much more narrow passage. They basically literally pushed a real car through an alley and actually created that shot. So that's actually like a real car actually being, crumpled and destroyed in slow motion.
Okay. By the way, I'm just looking over this car, and man, they used to do like the side mirrors differently back then, huh?
Yeah, that was actually a big thing kind of back then. This was like during the peak of like what they call like the jet era of cars, where they did like, big fins and stuff like that to kind of make it look more like an airplane and things like that. So you had like, famous cars like the 58 Plymouth or the 59 Cadillac DeVille is one of the most famous tail fin cars that ever been built. Which I think is also one of the most beautiful cars ever built. And they are, always famous for having like, big fancy tail fins, huge amounts of chrome trim on them. This was back when cars looked really, really wild. And I really wish like some of this would kind of start coming back.
All right. So the fun fact, which is kind of like a really dumb, like funny thing I found, which is just one of those objectively wild statements you get when you look things up randomly, especially when you're looking up like wiki like different like wikis and such. So I was double checking some of the information for like the model number for Christine, and when I was on the like Stephen King wiki, I just read the line, "Christine is a major antagonist in the Stephen King multiverse." I'm like, wait a second. It's one of those phrases that's like, yeah, that's technically true, but it's just such a wide statement because it implies that this car is on the same level as the Eldritch entities.
Yeah, sort of like when you get like the whole like multiverse, when you get into like the whole interconnecting stories of what is it? The Dark Tower and It are actually in the same timeline.
Yeah. I swear, or Stephen King, sometimes when you get that many books in horror, it starts becoming fantasy.
Yep.
All right. So we got one last car to go through. Now I will tell you, this is going to be the toughest one of them all. You ready?
Yep.
It's going to be so difficult. I'm not even going to let you worry about the model number. You just need to figure out what movie it's from. That's how tricky I think it's going to be. You're ready?
Okay.
You ever just come up with like a dumb idea when you're sitting there?
Kerchow.
Oh, sorry, that's not the correct answer.
McQueen.
Yes, Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, Kerchow.
I was legitimately just. I was sitting there thinking, like, I could probably throw in a few more, but I'm kind of running out of time now. I gotta get to work and such. I was like,
I mean, like for me, there are a couple like really iconic movie cars, kind of like in a little bit more obscure, or should I say a little bit like deeper cuts in terms of like choice movie cars. Like one of my favorites of all time is of course the if you've seen the old Mad Max trilogy, which was the Road Warrior, no, it was Mad Max, the Road Warrior, Beyond Thunderdome, which was the original trilogy. I mean, one of the most iconic cars in that is, of course, Max's Ford Interceptor, which was actually a Ford Falcon from Australia.
okay.
And then let me think, kind of going back to America and then the muscle car wars. I mean, like one of the more famous cars from that would be the 1970, I think it was either 70 or 71 Dodge Challenger from the movie Vanishing Point.
Yeah, my starting point for my research was I found a post saying the timeline of 50 iconic cars throughout film history. And I just started it from there. There was a lot of cars on there, and I just tried to pick one of the more recognizable ones. There were some I was genuinely thinking hard about to include or not, but I just kind of didn't because I kind of got choice paralysis. Like, obviously, Bumblebee.
Oh yeah, the various incarnations of Bumblebee from Transformers.
Yep.
Those, I think that's another a modern iconic movie car. Kind of going back to like classic movies. I mean, you have the black 1955 Chevrolet 210 from the movie American Graffiti, which was George Lucas's first movie before Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, and that's on the list too. The 1932 Ford Coupe. American Graffiti.
Yeah, the as people call it, the Deuce Coupe from that movie.
Yeah, there's the 1974 Dodge Monaco from the Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah, the cop car from the Blues Brothers is another really iconic one. And I mean, like one of my other favorites, of course, is the '59 Cadillac ambulance from Ghostbusters.
That's the one I've always seen. Like, I don't know if there's like someone around my area or like, but every time I go to a convention, I see the Ectomobile.
Oh, Ecto One?
Yeah. Sorry, I was reading off the name listed. Yeah, I see the Ecto One.
Yeah, no, but the question is it the original? Is it actually a 1959 Cadillac or is it something else?
I don't know.
Because I have seen around where I live, someone built an Ecto One out of I want to say it's like a mid 70s Cadillac. Either it was a hearse or an ambulance, and they built it into an Ecto One clone. Because to find an original '59 Cadillac ambulance that was like the ones that are used to build Ecto One, those are impossible to find in decent condition anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking like maybe a couple dozen, maybe still exist. And most of those are probably like, barely still holding together in like obscure junkyard somewhere.
Okay, I guess. Thanks. There's probably like some collectors out there who have like the really nice ones, like the ones that are like.
I mean, there's a few out there that I've seen. I mean, like I've seen like one of the most unusual cars that I saw recently was a '59 Cadillac limousine that I saw loaded onto a trailer not too long ago. It was a and I don't mean like limousine as in like one of those like super stretched ones. This one was a more traditional old school limousine where it had 3 rows of seats and 4 doors. So it was only stretched a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, some of the ones on the list, I'm like, oh yeah, iconic cars, like models, and some of them are just like the light cycle from Tron. That's not really what I was looking for.
No, I mean, if you want like other iconic movie cars from a car guy, I mean, like I said, you got like the white 1970 Challenger from Vanishing Point. You have the '55 Chevrolet from the movie Two Lane Blacktop is another really big kind of like car movie car. Then you have what's another really famous one? I mean, you got like the Pontiac Le Mans from The French Connection is another famous movie car. Great old spy movie if you ever want to see something a little bit different.
Okay.
What else is another really famous movie car? The green 1968 Ford Mustang GT from the movie Bullet. One of the most famous movie car chases ever made in one of the most boring movies you will ever watch.
Oh, wow.
I mean, yeah, really, the only reason why you watch that movie is for the car chase. That's it.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean, it is a very, very dry detective movie. Who is it in that? Steve McQueen plays a classic 1970s hard-nosed detective in San Francisco. And partway through the movie, he actually gets his pursuit car is a '68 Ford Mustang GT. And it's regarded as like one of the most iconic movie cars ever. And the original car from that movie, I believe, sold at auction, I want to say about like 5-6 years ago. And it sold for a ridiculous amount of money because it was preserved as is. It did not get restored at all.
Oh my.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to kind of see like how someone stumbled upon that car and actually just got it into enough condition to run and drive in its own as it was found, and it was actually sold at auction for a very, very high sum of money. I believe it was north of $1 million.
Oh, absolutely, easily.
And then let me think. Other famous movie cars.
The 1974.
A bit of a.
The 1974 Chevrolet Nova from Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, that's right. They drive a Nova in that one. That was a cool car. A bit of a deep reach. If you want to get into another interesting like killer horror movie about a killer car that's not called Christine, there is the funky looking custom Lincoln Continental that was built for the movie, simply known as The Car. Yeah, funky looking, car with a big hood and a chrome grille and evil looking eyes on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a highly customized. It was a Lincoln. It was either a Mark 8 or a Continental. I forget which one it was. I think it was a Mark 8 because this was like in the later 70s. I mean, it was a bizarre movie. But a lot of people like regard it as like one of the more iconic, movie cars out there because of like how weird it looks. Another kind of interesting deep reach would also be, the old panel van that was driven by the Creeper in Jeepers Creepers. Okay. That's also another very iconic kind of obscure movie car.
Oh, by the way, I just looked it up. 1971 Lincoln Continental Mark III.
I was a Mark III. Okay. Yeah, that actually makes sense.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of Jeepers Creepers. I haven't watched it because I'm not great with horror. One more iconic car I'm seeing a couple more iconic cars I'm seeing. Just gonna list off a couple in a row. 1982 Pontiac Trans Am from Knight Rider.
The Turbo Trans Am from Knight Rider. That's a classic.
Okay, is this an actual car, or is it just called the 6000 SUX from RoboCop? Is that an actual car, or?
The 6000 SUX from RoboCop was actually based on a Ford Taurus. Believe it or not.
Okay. Hope you had fun. You can redeem the points you won in the gift shop on your way out. We're not done yet, but I'm just letting you know. All right, so
of course,
a few things to bring up. I wrote a few topics down for that whole conversation. You said the DeLorean was a bad engine. What makes what makes an engine bad? Like in the DeLorean's case, as an example.
In the DeLorean's case, it had very, very little horsepower for the kind of car that it was meant to go in, and it was very unreliable. So it always, it always had issues with I think it was like issues with, I believe, the drivetrain or something like that. Yeah, let me see if I can look it up again. It was the engine of the DeLorean was called the PRV, which was a V6 that was built. I was right. It was Volvo. So it was built by the alliance, which was formed of Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo back in the 70s through the late 90s. And this engine was a piece of crap. It was not really that great. It had issues with the ignition in it because it had an uneven firing order in the cylinders. So it had issues with either, even power delivery and stuff like that. So it felt very wheezy and stuff like that. People always describe the engine as pretty much gutless. Because it, like I said, it had no power to it. But there are better versions of this engine in way more interesting cars that were built in the era. One of my personal favorites being the Renault Alpine A310, which is in a which is in a famous anime, believe it or not. Very much kudos if you can identify which anime it's in.
My mind is telling me Ghost in the Shell.
I'll give you a really big hint. My namesake is kind of the hint.
Oh no, I don't know enough.
It's in a mecha anime, a very
Gundam?
famous one.
Or
Nope.
what's that called? The Knights of something? I don't remember.
No, but I can at least tell you the character Misato Katsuragi drives one in Neon Genesis Evangelion.
How did I miss the most famous mecha anime of all time? Like that,
Yeah,
I'm just mad at myself for that one.
Believe it or not, in that show, she drives a Renault Alpine A310.
That's the obvious one. I was going for Ghost in the Shell. What was I thinking? Okay, moving on. From that,
No, in terms of like famous things in Ghost in the Shell, that would be more like that would be more getting into like a conversation about like famous guns that kind of show up in that one, because the original creator of that manga was a very big gun nut.
my other guess was going to be Akira. So
Akira, that really didn't have any like real vehicles in it, except for the iconic red motorcycle driven by Kaneda, but that's not actually even a real bike, even though many people have replicated it in various forms. I've seen people modify. I think it was a scooter made by, I think it was either Honda or Yamaha, and you can actually make the Akira bike out of it.
okay,
And all you basically do is all they really did was basically split the bike in half and stretch the frame out.
oh yeah, that would do it, wouldn't it? All right. So another topic I wanted to move on to it sort of popped in my mind. We discussed it lightly. Wraps.
Sure. Oh, yeah, vehicle wraps. That's an interesting thing to kind of get into.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are, we're VTubers. We're pretty closely connected to the anime community, so we're very familiar with wraps, for better or for worse.
Oh, you want to talk about the cars with waifus on them, don't you?
I mean, that's like a good introduction to the topic because that's something we're both familiar with.
So the interesting thing is, do you know what those cars are called?
No.
Or the whole like genre of that is actually from obviously it's a whole very Japanese thing. They are usually known as itasha. So the actual term for that is literally meaning it's for lack of a better word, it's basically the Japanese word for cringe or cringing at something. So basically it means if you look at it, you're feeling pain because originally people actually hated that because it was like, why would you put a drawing of an anime character on the side of a car and stuff like that? And it has blown up into one of the most popular ways to decorate a car in mostly Japanese culture, but it's also kind of like making its way over to car shows here in the US and in the import scene. A lot of people are doing itasha style stuff. Usually you kind of like blend a couple of different like car styles with itasha style wraps. You have stuff like you have like some Japanese cars that were built out of like what's known as like a either like the Bozu Zoku style, which are like these ones with like really wild body kits on them and stuff like that, and people will do like itasha wraps on those, or you have like the less outlandish but still pretty wild looking Kaido racers will also do some itasha style stuff. And then you have the most typical style of Japanese cars that you see with itasha on it is typically called a Veep or VIP, which is usually a big sedan that's been lowered almost to the point that it's touching the ground, and it has usually pretty big size wheels on it. You can easily look up like what a VIP style car kind of looks like. Typically it's like a big Toyota sedan of some sort, either like I think it was called a Toyota Century. There's also a Toyota Crown that was built back in the day, or you have like the various Lexus or Infinity cars of the more modern era. They're usually done VIP style.
Okay. Fun fact, I actually have seen someone casually driving around with one of those cars.
Okay, let me try to guess. If you know what it is it a Honda? It's got to be like a Civic or something.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Ah,
I was so distracted.
I was wondering if you knew.
I was distracted by the Dragon Ball on it.
Oh, nice. It's got like do you know who's on it?
I mean, it's like there's like a Shenron design going around it. It's like the Dragon Ball symbol on it. I've seen Goku
I kind
on
of
like.
want to see this thing.
I wish I had a picture, but every time I've seen it, I've been driving, so not a good idea.
Ah. Yeah,
Nope.
then I think one of my favorite modern examples of Itasha that I saw recently was from the Twitter user Sad Machines. I'm looking through their feed right now. They have this amazing wrap that they designed based off of Uma Mutsume.
Talk about horsepower.
And they put it on a
Sorry.
they put it on of all things, and I did not expect this, a 1972 Mustang. Here, I put it in our Discord chat right now. And this is not a 3D render. This is a real car that actually exists. It was designed by Sad Machines, and it's actually the owner is actually known as Spicy Dad of all things. His actual Twitter handle is Waifu Squad Vinyl.
All right.
And yeah, that's actually his car. Is this old 72 Mustang Fastback with this for me, it's an awesome design of a wrap on it, because even though it's Itasha style, you can actually see a lot of really cool like little touches to like retro drag racing from like the 60s and 70s on it. Like the whole like side stripe that's on there is evocative of like the factory drag cars that were actually built back in those days. Then you have like the little like the print on there that says Yasoku Publishing. That's done in like a very common font from like the 70s and stuff like that. Then you have the Summit Racing sticker, which is, very typical muscle car stuff. And then my personal favorite touch is the UHRA sticker, which is a parody of the actual NHRA, which is the National Hot Rod Association. But they made it for theirs, which was the UMA Hot Rod Association on that one, which I thought was hilarious. I forgot what was the other really cool touch. I think they actually changed up the American Racing sticker on it.
The the Yokura race courses thing in the very back, maybe.
Yeah, Kokura race course. That's an Uma Mutsume reference, I believe. Yeah. And again, that's also evocative of like a sticker you would see on like Japanese cars a lot, especially on like the older like style hot rods that you see over in Japan. You see like stickers like that all over the place. And I mean, he's got like a couple other like classic American stickers on there. He's got like the Champion spark plugs logo, Valvoline has just the classic American Racing logo on there, which are the make of the wheels that he has are from American Racing. I'm not sure what the Aura sticker on there is. I know that's something from
URA. Is that URA? Oh yeah, that is URA.
Yeah, it's URA.
That is like the big like race at the end of the game.
Oh, then okay, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, it's like literally the whole plot of the game is that you're training a horse to compete in that race. The URA, I'm willing to bet finale is written in that tiny font underneath.
Yeah, and then I believe the character on the side is let me see. I think actually the Twitter user actually says whose it is. Oh, it's Ikuno Dictus. That's actually who's on the side of it.
I'm sorry, that's a perfect setup for a biggest dickus joke, and you know it.
Oh, of course. But yeah, I thought that was actually like a fantastic to actually see someone do that on the most unexpected car. I never thought like would actually see an Itasha wrap on it, and it looks incredible. I think.
I'm surprised if you're not expecting it. It's a Mustang. Hey.
I mean it was very, very appropriate.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's neat to actually also see someone actually maintain one of these Mustangs because, like the 71 to 73 era is usually not the most popular. So, which actually is a bit of a double-edged sword because people think that these cars are kind of ugly in their own way, but they're also, which also means they're cheap as hell. So if you ever wanted to get into, the muscle car kind of hobby, this is kind of like your sideways way in because you look for like a really weird year of a car that you kind of like, and then you kind of get into it that way, and you find one that was cheap. Which though I kind of did with like the 70s Chevelle, even though it's always viewed as like one of the best looking cars Chevrolet has ever built, and I will 100% agree with that. But we found ours kind of like before car prices kind of like got really, really nutty for stuff like this. So we kind of got ours for, a much smaller price than what you would probably pay today for something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine the prices have been going up recently.
Oh, very, very much so.
Ah. So, general wrap.
I mean, like, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I realized there was like one other question I had about wraps. How difficult is it to wrap something like from start to finish? And is it something that
a really good wrap? To do a really good wrap, it actually takes a lot more work than you think. Because you have to actually do a wrap really well, you actually have to make sure that it does not have any imperfections in the material that you actually lay down on the car. So you got to there's actually like a couple different ways that you actually apply a wrap to a car. One of the most easy ways that you actually do it is that you put it on while the car is wet, believe it or not. So what you actually do is that you lightly hose the car down with a little bit of like water in a spray bottle, and then you actually lay the material on there. And then what you do is that you actually squeegee out the water underneath of the wrap, and then it will start to adhere to the paint. Because that way, while it's still wet, you can actually slide the wrap around and actually get it perfectly onto whatever edge or line that you actually want to get the sticker to line up with. And then by the time you actually squeeze all the water out, then it starts to cure to the paint and actually adhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was one of the first, I remember that being like a trend on like YouTube shorts for a while where it's like, I don't know if it's just like the algorithm worked for it, but I saw like a lot of videos of like people wrapping cars.
Yeah, because it's a really cheap alternative to doing a full-blown paint job because, to do like a full custom paint job, I mean, you're talking...
Oh, yeah. Like,
on the low end, I mean, you're talking like about $15,000 to $20,000, and then it just goes up and up from there, depending upon, how elaborate or how much work has to go into, body work and all that to actually make paint look good. So the cheap shortcut is, well, the thing is that doing it to wrapping a DeLorean is not really as sacrilegious because all you got to do is just peel it off. Meanwhile, with paint, you have to like strip it off. And then because the DeLorean was made with stainless steel, you have ruined the finish on the stainless steel. So therefore it is now no good.
All right. So you can take off
that's
a
why
wrap.
It's better to but yes, you can take off a wrap. It's very easy to do. Basically, all you really have to do is, the easy way that you do it is that you find like the very beginning edge of where it was actually like applied, which is usually like around like the inside of like the door or something like that. If you want to start like on like the door, you go inside the door jamb and then you start, you go in there with like a heat gun and then you actually like, very gently blow heat on the wrap and it will start to like basically peel itself up. Then you actually basically just grab the corner of it and then you very gently just pull slowly and then it will just basically start coming off like the world's biggest band-aid.
I'm minus this question. Is that like taking off like film on a new screen or something? Or it's gotta be satisfying, right?
It's a very similar sensation, but it is much more difficult to do so because the kind of like adhesives that vinyl wraps use is much stronger.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's designed to go on a car, which is by nature designed to be exposed to the elements. Typically.
Yeah, and even like, really nice really nice wraps. I mean, you can keep these on for a very long time before they need to be either replaced or maintained in some way. Typically like a good vinyl wrap, if you take good care of it, lasts about, I want to say like about 5 to 7 years before it needs to be replaced. Meanwhile, like say a good paint job, if you take care of it, lasts as long as the car does. So,
What do you have you ever seen like a really bad wrap? Like one that you're just like, oh.
I have a couple of times in like some of like the some of the low dollar imports that kind of like, get around where I live. You can easily spot, things like the wrap has imperfections or little like, ripples in it. If you actually kind of like look, and it's not like, perfectly laid down onto the car's body and stuff like that. Or you see like it's starting to peel at the very edges of where the body seams are. So that tells you, it's starting to show its age and stuff like that. So you can easily see, it's either been like poorly maintained or it's kind of like working into, it's getting to the point that it needs to be taken off. And, you just want to like yell at the guy. It's like, please take that thing to a shop and get it off. It looks awful.
Wow. Moving on to worst. Worst. What do you think is like the worst like looking car mod you've seen? Period.
Very easily is the old low dollar body kit on a car that does not deserve it. So it'd be like something like seeing like, huge a huge wide body fenders on something like some sort of like crappy little eco car like a Kia or something like that. Let me see if I can find like a really good example. Let's see, like a really popular car coming up would be stuff like the old Geo Metro, which was a little tiny eco brand by General Motors, and people put like really silly looking or unnecessary body.
Oh. Okay, let me explain what just happened. Sorry about that.
Did you just hang up?
I was okay. Hold on. I was pulling up the Discord, waiting to see like if you had the picture up, and I noticed, oh, my stream's still going. I'm still streaming you my PowerPoint. I should probably stop that.
You hit the hang up button, didn't you?
Yeah. Let's see here.
I kind of got you like a little example, like right there is like a example of like when the import scene was kind of like starting to blow up really big here, and then you had like people like this.
Okay, so doors going up.
People usually refer to those as either some people call them like Lamborghini doors, some people call them scissor doors because it has an action almost like a pair of scissors. And all that really is like a really simple like modification to the door hinge. But seeing stuff like that like in the late 90s and early 2000s was just like, ugh.
I mean,
why?
This might just be me, but this actually I'm not going to say it looks cool or good. I'm going to say it looks very practical because I've been in cramped parking lots before.
Oh yeah, the idea of a scissor door actually makes a lot of sense, and even like some car companies, utilize very unorthodox door designs to kind of like get around like the idea of like trying to fit in like tight parking spaces and stuff like that. I mean, you have stuff like let me think. What was the most recent example of like that? Would be the doors on the Tesla Model X. The gull wing doors actually open up in a very tight space because they open up and over the roof. so it makes the car very easy to get in and out of. And because of the where the hinges are on the car, they open up in a very tight radius, so they don't go outside of like a parking space, which I thought was actually an incredibly practical design.
Okay. Of course, then you have vans who are just with the sliding doors, which function the same.
Yeah, the old sliding door on a van. I mean, that's a classic change to like a figuring out like where to do that. So even some other concept cars have even have like disappearing doors where you push a button and the door literally just disappears into like the front fender somewhere, or it like folds up. I believe there's been a couple of concept cars by BMW that actually explore that idea.
Okay.
And then if you want to kind of get into like, the whole idea of like the import body kits, I mean, on the good side of things, I mean, you have like cars that like, or body kits that completely transform what the car looks like. One of my personal favorites.
So some clarifying information. When you say import body kit, I assume it's like tools and items you need to like change how a car looks, right?
Oh yeah. Import meaning, at least in my case, would be like any car from outside of the United States.
Okay.
So it'd be, it would be something for, and usually that refers to like an Asian car. It would be like Nissan, Honda, or whatever. One of my all-time favorites for that is from the company Rocket Bunny. They actually make a body kit for the Nissan Silvia that actually turns it into almost looks like a muscle car. So that's actually what the car looks like with the body kit on it. And then I'll see if I can find a nearly stock one. Here we go. So that's with the body kit on it. And this is without.
Oh, wow.
So that's how much it actually changes. So you see it actually changes the entire front bumper. It has fender flares. It has different side skirts, and it has a different trunk lid. Though most people actually, when they install this body kit, they actually delete the back bumper and they leave like the inner bodywork actually kind of exposed, and it creates a really interesting look on the car.
All right. Wow, the fact that you can change the entire bumper, that's what really throws me off.
Yeah, and it looks like a completely different kind of car, doesn't it?
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, and this is like one of the most popular complete body conversions for the Nissan Silvia, known over in the United States as the 240SX.
Okay.
So, let me think. What were some of the other really good examples of that? I mean, there's a couple other interesting ones out there, though. You have like some other people that like do like full custom jobs that are like more one-offs, but this is more of like a production example, like where you can actually like buy it off of a store shelf and actually do it yourself.
Yeah, this is the kind
of and then kind of like getting even deeper into like the hot rodding world. I mean, you have like people that are completely changing like how a car looks, or even building like their own car from the ground up. Like one of my favorite examples is this custom hot rod that was built by a shop in Utah. By the shop was actually known as Kindig Customs, and they built this completely custom street rod that was actually based off of the design of a early 1950s Chevy Corvette concept car. And they called it the 12 Air. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
And this was built from scratch. Everything on this car was built by hand. So the frame, the chassis, and even the body was built entirely by hand.
Okay.
And it took the shop, I want to say I think I remember it was like about 4 years to actually fully build this car.
I mean, I imagine making a car will take a while. But yeah, 4
Yeah, and
years is still
especially when you
darn
get
impressive.
into yeah, and even still, I mean, and this car went on to win multiple show awards for its craftsmanship. Because if you actually get into like stuff like the most impressive part of this is actually the engine in it, which was a 12-cylinder version of a American V8 called the Chevrolet LS. What they basically did is that it's 1.5 LSs crammed together to create a 12-cylinder engine, and it was a custom block built by I believe it was a shop in Australia that built the initial block for it, and then it was built. The rest of it was built here in the U.S. By a different shop. Then it was installed by Kindig Customs into this car.
There is sorry, just the idea of how do we get more out of this engine? Let's put half another engine in there. That'll work.
That's not the first time. I mean, that's a very common thing in hot rodding. Was basically like the idea was just, take one thing and then put another one on the on it. You had stuff like a really common one, which most people don't know about, is the famous what people call the Hayabusa V8, which is basically two engines from a Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle, and you basically all the engine really is that they took two Hayabusa engines and made a common crankshaft between them, and it turned a 4-cylinder into a V8.
Okay. Now, I'm just realizing now, this is going to be the dumbest question to show you just how little about cars I know. V8 means 8 cylinders, right?
Correct.
What exactly are cylinders? Oh, man.
So if you actually look at like the diagram of an engine, the cylinder is actually what is inside of the block. Let me see if I can just pull up an example of it. Let's see. Here we go. So like here, what I was talking about the Hayabusa V8, like here is what the engine block looks like completely stripped down. Okay. So you see like those really big holes in the middle of the block? That's a cylinder.
All right. So what's their...
And then what goes inside... Oh. What goes inside of a cylinder is a piston, and then what's attached to the piston is the piston rod. And then in the middle of the engine, where you see that one hole in the center down towards the bottom on the front, that's where what's called the crankshaft goes. And the crankshaft is a rotating shaft with offset sections of it that the piston rod's attached to, that it rotates in a rhythmical fashion to create what's known as which is the firing order of the engine. So most typical firing orders for like an engine is like something like 4 1 3 2 5 6 8 or something like that. Or I'm sorry, 4 1 3 2 5 7 6 8 or something like that.
I was just about to call you out on that.
Like it would fire in that order.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, I was honestly just sitting here, or like, saying V8 a lot. I think that's a type of drink.
It is also a type of drink, but it also refers to the layout of an engine. So there are many, many, many different types of like engines out there. So whenever I say V for an engine, that means the engine is laid out in a V shape. And then the number is the number of cylinders after it. So there's like there's a V4, there's a V6, there's a V12, there's even a V16 is one of the biggest V engines ever made. I think there's technically a V24 that exists, but I think that's mainly seen in either train locomotives or ships. I've never seen a V24 in a road vehicle.
I mean, yeah, I can imagine. I'm just trying to picture six of them in one
The biggest
engine.
I've ever seen in a car is a V16.
That is also kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it they were kind of prevalent mainly back in like the most prevalent, they were like back in like the 1930s and 40s. You saw them in cars from like Duesenberg, Cadillac. I believe Bugatti. No, Bugatti did not make a V16. They made a V12. Who else made a V16? Duesenberg, Cadillac. I think there was one made by Rolls-Royce, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very few. And then coming back up to the modern era, there is a V16 that is going to be in the new car from Bugatti called the Tourbillon. They're putting a bespoke V16 in that thing, and it looks insane. And then what was the other one that I've seen? Other really crazy engine layouts. I mean, you have what's known as a flat engine, which is where the pistons instead are in a configuration where they basically jut straight out, opposing each other. That's mostly seen in cars from like Volkswagen and Subaru. Porsche also makes a flat layout engine, typically a flat 6. They did make a flat 12 for racing purposes for a short while, though typically they only did that for a very short time. I think then after that they went to like either like a V10 or a V8 typically after that. And then you also have what I call one of the craziest sounding engines ever made. Let me it's better to just play the sound for you.
Should be
Let me
interesting.
see if I can find a really good video of this thing, because that is what. Here it is.
Oh, right. I should probably put it on the disc.
This
Right.
is an example of a V16, but it is one of the smallest V16s ever made. This was a engine built by British Racing Motors in the 1950s of all times. And this was built for Formula One. It's a V16, but it only measures 1.5 liters of displacement. It is tiny.
Loud though.
Well, that is mainly because the what this thing was actually powered by was that it was a 16-cylinder engine that had 2 superchargers, and it ran on pure alcohol. And that is a very powerful fuel for its time. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that this engine at its peak made almost 800 horsepower in the 50s.
Part of me wish I actually drank so I could say, "Hey, me too." I'm also powered by alcohol. No.
You do not want to drink alcohol fuel. It's not the right kind of alcohol. So whenever people say alcohol in terms of like racing, it is a completely different kind of alcohol that what you drink. What you drink is what's known as I believe it is ethanol. No, it's not ethanol. Is it methanol? I forget.
Any relation to rubbing alcohol?
No, that is also a different kind of alcohol. There are multiple kinds of alcohols. One of the only ones for human consumption is ethanol. But though you can still make an actual like fuel you can run an engine on out of it. If you ever see at a gas station anything that's labeled like E10, E20, E85, the E stands for ethanol. That means it is partly made with alcohol in the fuel.
Okay.
So typically, even though ethanol can produce more power than gasoline does, the main drawback is that in ethanol fuel, there's water in it. So if you let ethanol sit in a car for too long, the fuel will literally separate and actually will become part gasoline, part water. And that is very, very bad for an engine.
Okay. I guess leaving things in a
And then
car is kind of what
the
gas
other
is
type
supposed
of
to do.
alcohol. Yeah, and then typically for like racing applications, what you don't want is ethanol. You want what's known as methanol. It's a completely different type of alcohol. When you if and the most interesting part about methanol is that when you burn it, you can't see it. The flame is invisible.
Okay. I
And one of the and methanol fuel actually has been used in racing pretty much ever since the engine existed. Methanol fuel is like one of the more common racing fuels out there, though more nowadays they have put additives into the fuel to actually make the flame visible. Because one of the most infamous accidents in racing history was in the IndyCar series in the United States during a race where a car had an accident in the pits where during a pit stop, the pit crew was actually refueling a car while it was running, um, to save time and all that. But they had an accident with disconnecting the fuel can from the engine, and it started to actually catch fire. The problem is, if you looked at it, you had no idea that car was on fire. All you saw was waves of heat emitting from the outside of the car, and then you actually see the driver actually get out of the car and start rolling on the ground, panicking because he is being burned by invisible methanol fumes. He did walk away. He only had minor burns because he was wearing a fire suit, so thankfully they saved him.
oh,
But that moment in motorsports actually created some safety measures to be taken. That if a car were to run on any sort of methanol blend of fuel, it had to have additives into it to make the flames visible.
that is the
And
most.
from that point on, usually most racing cars did not run on pure methanol anymore. Usually they ran on some sort of like blended fuel. Most people refer to it as like either like racing fuel because there's all sorts of different blends and variations of it from different manufacturers from places like um, from like Sunoco, from Shell. VP Racing Fuels is one of the more um prevalent brands that actually makes like different forms of like methanol fuel for racing applications. um and more these days you actually will see it burn if you actually were to somehow accidentally light it on fire, but back then you couldn't, and that was a very dangerous thing, and it was a risk that a lot of people took, and they took it for granted for a long time.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, for no reason, I'm just gonna write methanol fires and start planning a new. That's the whole idea of a fire that you can't see. It just kind of freaks me out. I don't know why.
It is very freaky to actually see the footage of a methanol fire, and you have no idea actually why something is burning, and then you don't realize it until it is too late.
Oh boy. Like that sounds like something from like a Hitman level. One way you can.
It is in a way, but very rarely will you actually see anything involving like methanol fires really anymore, because not a lot of people actually use pure methanol as a fuel that actually is hard to see.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. Let's. I've got 2 points of transition to go from this. The first is like one
Okay.
quick question. It's like a general car question. It's always
Sure.
been in the back of my mind, and it's to do a fuel. Like, my question is, you know how when you go to a gas station, there's like a few different levels of gas?
Sure.
Yeah, like different. What is that about? And is there an actual difference?
Yes, there is a difference, and if you're not driving anything that is of high performance, never ever put the high test fuel in a small little economy car, because you will blow that engine up very quickly.
Okay. So
So what that number refers to is what's known as the octane rating of fuel. Um, so what that actually is that is the fuel's ability to withstand compression inside of an engine. So the higher the number, the more compression it can withstand before it ignites.
Hmm. So, like, don't buy the more expensive stuff. Just go for the cheap stuff, right?
Yes, unless you have a very nice car that has a very big engine in it, like mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like my Chevelle only runs on high test or better. I mean, ideally, like the best octane fuel that it can run on is probably 110, but it is very rare to come by. So typically we have it. I have it tuned to run on typical like not what is it, 98? Yeah, 98 octane pump gas.
Hmm.
Or sorry, 90 octane. I'm sorry, not 98, just 90.
Okay. Now for more.
But with just a couple like really simple little like setting changes, I can have it run on much hotter, much more intense fuel. And that's really doesn't take a lot of work.
Okay. So moving on to a more general topic, because we were kind of touching upon it earlier. Racing cars.
Oh man, this is a very deep rabbit hole.
Well, let's start with a basic question to get the conversation moving.
Okay.
What ultimately is the difference between a common everyday car and a racing car? Like, what are the like mechanical differences and stuff like that?
I mean, like the biggest difference between a purpose-built racing car and a everyday like, an everyday like street car, the biggest difference is the chassis that it is built on. So typically a really good racing car is actually built with is usually built with what's known as a roll cage, which is an internal cage that is actually consisting of multiple tubes in various geometric formations to actually create a safety cage that actually protects mainly the driver from any sort of like heavy impact, and also it creates a much more rigid structure to actually make the car handle way better than stock.
Huh. I honestly was not gonna guess that. I thought it was gonna be like, oh, the engine or like the wheels or something, but no, you went for the chassis. Okay.
No, the chassis is the biggest differentiator in most race cars, because there are actually racing series out there where they will literally race very close to like stock form racing cars, and the only major difference is really they just run on a specialized chassis. That's it.
Okay. Huh. So
So I could give you like an example of what like a really good racing chassis will kind of look like.
yeah, I'll take
Let me
that.
see here.
Hmm. So if these are like you can say that the racing chassis are usually a lot safer, right?
Oh, very much so.
Why aren't those in like standard vehicles, like in everything, like especially in?
Because if you were to actually like build this for everyday race cars, cars would be even more expensive than they are now. To actually engineer and actually build these kind of chassis, it takes a lot of work and a lot of material.
Ah,
And usually when they build these kind of like, internal skeletal cages like this, they are built out of very exotic materials. So it's not just made out of like steel, it's made out of very special steel, usually known as chromoly steel, or even titanium, and that is when they get really expensive. um because like they have like parts of the frame are made out of like solid titanium tubes or titanium plates, and they are thousands of dollars in just those plates alone. When you get to like the cost of like building an entire like chassis like this, I mean you're talking tens of thousands of dollars of cost in of itself. And usually almost all of these are built to spec, and they are also measured very specifically for the driver. So you can actually be custom fitted into a chassis that is built to your height, your weight, and your your dimensions mostly. Because usually when you get into stuff like, especially like drag racing, you have to be in a very, very safe containment cage. And those are almost always built to spec for the driver that is piloting the car.
Okay. So like the base concept of these are very rigid, right?
Extremely so.
Isn't that
if you ever look at like when, if you ever look at like what happens when people have like accidents drag racing, and usually, these cars are going, 150, 200, even 300 miles per hour, and they are smacking into a wall, the driver will almost always survive if the cage stays intact.
Huh. Well, I thought,
and that is how safe the technology and the engineering goes into these things. I mean, I have seen some relatively gnarly drag racing crashes, even in the times that I've gone, actually to races, and I've seen, cars, get out of control and smack the wall and roll over and stuff like that. And, it looks really, kind of scary. But the most, the biggest sigh of relief is always when you see the safety crew, get around the car to actually start, extracting the driver, and the driver just simply undoes his seatbelt and just climbs out of the car.
Okay, so
and almost always, if you ever watch like what happens when these drag racing cars have accidents, everything but the driver's compartment is destroyed, but the driver's compartment is completely intact. It is that strong.
So this is kind of like what you're saying makes sense. It's kind of clashing with my previous understood concept that cars are designed to crumple.
They are, to a point.
Okay, so is it that with these kind of races they're going so fast that crumpling would just crush them no matter what?
Pretty much, because typically when you build, especially in the case of like a drag racing chassis, most of the chassis rigidity is either in the frame that actually keeps the suspension to the ground, and also the driver's compartment. Everything else is mainly just there to hang very lightweight bodywork, and that's about it. So if you look at, for example, where's a really good example of a picture I can find for you? Oh, here's a good one. So if you look at like, say this chassis picture right here, actually let me get the big one and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So if you look at like, say like this picture here of like this type of frame, this is an incomplete chassis. So this is a car not all the way built. If you actually look at like how the way that this is built, all it really is a skeleton with a skin on it. That's all it really is.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like see like all the little like tubes kind of like kind of sticking out and stuff like that. So you can actually see like where the body sort of like just basically is like molded to this cage, and that's about it. There's really not any like internal structure on this body. That internal structure is that tubing that you see all over the place. And that's mainly like what is holding up stuff like the suspension, the engine, and the wheels. Everything else is mainly made out of either very thin steel or carbon fiber.
Okay. Huh. Nice. All right. So a lot of times with all right, so moving on to to more racing questions, more general ones I have. Um how much does a car's like design and make and all that go into how well they perform?
I mean, that is all mainly depending upon like how much engineering like goes into the initial concept of the car. So if it was like, a purpose built like, sports car and things like that, you have, cars worth, a cool anywhere between like, $250,000 to as many as like multiple millions of dollars of cost. And they are very quick cars usually. I mean, like one of the best, I'd say one of the best values for a really high end sports car that doesn't cost as much as like its competition does is the Corvette is the new Chevrolet Corvette. Um, I mean, like typically that car is engineered like most cars that cost like 2, 3, 4 times as much, and yet it's a fraction of the price, and it still keeps up with those cars.
Okay. Nice. So I'm looking through the list of things to talk about. One thing I noticed we lightly touched upon earlier, but we never quite got too much into it. You mentioned Fast and the Furious was the most unrealistic version of straight racing.
Oh boy, man, there are. I could sit here all day and discuss how badly that card depicts racing and effects of certain things on cars. But I mean, many YouTubers have actually gone over that in great detail, and you can very easily find videos about it.
Well, moving along that same concept, what are some examples of some maybe other bad examples of straight racing in television and movies? Maybe some good examples too.
Let me think. Some other really bad examples of racing. I mean, like one of the I think one of the most notorious is there was a Sylvester Stallone movie that came out in, I want to say it was either like the late 90s or um early 2000. Uh and it was not that great. I think it was called Driven. That was not a really good movie. Um
I imagine not.
yeah, it was not a really good depiction of like like IndyCar racing at the time. There were some other really good movies that kind of came out before it. Like I think like one of the greatest movie depictions of racing out there is an old movie from the 1960s, or no, I'm sorry, 70s, called Grand Prix.
Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's a really good one because it actually features like real racing. Um and then let me think, another really good dramatization of racing that was probably like one of the best would probably be it was a movie about the Formula One drivers James Hunt and Niki Lauda called Rush. If you want to see a really good depiction of racing and some of the drama behind it, I mean that is a great example of like a real life story of two of like the biggest legends in Formula One to ever live, and that was, like I said, Niki Lauda and James Hunt. Um, and then let me think, another really good racing movie would also be believe it or not, would be a movie named after a video game, Gran Turismo.
I think I've seen trailers for that. Is that a newer movie?
Fairly new. It's only a couple of years old, and that is also partially based on a true story um of when a person who participated in the Gran Turismo tournaments um actually won a real life seat on a racing team for, I believe it was Nissan. And he got to race at the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Hmm.
And he has since gone on to be a competitor in a few mid-tier racing series. I think it was what's the name of the series in Japan? I think it was called Super GT. He's actually won a few races there, and I believe a championship at one point. And
Okay.
he came up from being a just a really damn good driver in Gran Turismo. Another really good racing movie I absolutely love is also if you have never seen it, Ford versus Ferrari. It is a fantastic movie.
Okay.
Which actually is which actually tells of the 1960 67. I forget what year it is. It's when it was when yeah, I was right. It was 1966. I was close. Which was when Ford went to Le Mans with the then new Ford GT40 and absolutely beat the snot out of Ferrari at their own game by building a completely bespoke sports car to actually just absolutely lay waste to the Italians. And it tells a lot of like the finer details of like when Ford was a little bit anxious to actually start going racing, and then they kind of like started screwing over the original creators of the Ford GT40, which were what were the guys' names? It was Carroll Shelby, and the driver was Ken Miles, and it was a lot of like the drama behind like when Ford kind of like meddled in their affairs to actually get the GT40 to actually be the best version it could be, because the version that won the 24 Hours of Le Mans was not the first GT40. It was actually the Mark III. It was the third version of the car.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Wow, that's okay.
And then let me
Great.
think, what was another? And then like to kind of go for like the ultimate of one of the absolute worst racing movies I have ever seen. There was also another one. Um, there was a movie that has this ridiculous depiction um of speed and sound of a vehicle in a movie. Let me think.
Do you remember anything about it? Like any of the surrounding details? Maybe it will help you look it up.
No, it was this really stupid, really bad movie that had um uh I forget who was in it, but all I remember about it was like this really ridiculous depiction of like how fast these motorcycles were going down a city street, and they were apparently so loud they shattered windows as they went by. That is not possible.
Yeah, no, that sounds about wrong. Like that's like not like boom level.
Yeah, that's absolutely not possible. I think the loudest a car could possibly be is that it could set off a car alarm. That is possible, and I have seen it.
So I looked up a motorcycle shattering glass. Is it the world's fastest Italian?
No,
Torque?
uh no, wait, was it called Torque? I think that was it.
Yeah,
I think it was called Torque.
I just found a Reddit post that said 2004's Torque, the motorcycle race battle is one of the greatest violation laws of physics to ever occur on film.
Yeah, it was Torque. I remember this. Yeah, this was a bad movie. Oh my god.
I'm just reading some of the comments on this Reddit post. This is the cinematic equivalent of a kid smashing his toy motorcycles together in his room and making sound effects with his mouth.
That is exactly how I would describe that movie. Now, kind of going into a little bit of an interesting factoid about like how loud cars can actually get. How loud did you know that there are actually cars so loud that they can actually register on the Richter scale?
Yeah, I know. They drive outside my house when I'm recording. I'm joking, but wow.
There are cars that actually can actually do that to you. And they are the most powerful they are the most powerful vehicles with wheels on the planet. And I just posted what they are in the in our Discord chat. So these are
This is the one who
drag
can
racing
fix
cars
nearly
that
anything
compete
and
in
turns
the
to
National
Granger.
Hot Rod Association's Top Fuel series. And they have two different flavors. They either have what they call funny cars or top fuel dragsters. The reason why that they are called funny cars is that it's short for funny looking car. I kid you not. Where they originated from was back in the early 60s when the NHRA was first really starting to get its legs under it. They had this division of cars in that was known as, I think it was known as Eliminator back in the day. And at one point, a team actually took a car and actually altered its wheelbase and shortened it a little bit and shortened the length of the hood. And it looked really weird. And people just said it was a funny looking car. And then people started copying it and they got more and more extreme over the years to the point that they weren't even like stock body. They weren't even like what they call like a door car anymore, which is a car with actual like doors and windows on it. It was literally just a it was literally a tubular chassis with a body that flopped on it like basically a clamshell. And that was what provided the aerodynamics on it. And that's what they are basically now. It's basically a tubular frame with a big body that actually flops on top of it and provides all of the downforce and aerodynamics.
What's it called again?
It's called a funny car.
Funny car. Aerodynamic. Because if I look up funny car, I'm just going to get a bunch of clown cars. Oh, there it is. There's a Wikipedia article on it.
Yep. Yeah. So, kind of going back to what I said about like the whole idea of like these things registering on the Richter scale. These cars, each engine itself makes 11,000 horsepower. Some people say it's closer to 12,000. These are the fastest accelerating vehicles on the planet next to a rocket. They will go from 0 to 330 plus miles an hour in less than 3 seconds. They are so loud that if you stood between them when they launch at full force, they will register just under a 3 on the Richter scale.
I mean, honestly, my first thought is, and you can only go up to 60 on the freeway.
Yep, these guys, they do up to almost 340.
Yikes.
Actually, no, they will do over 340 because someone broke the 340 mile per hour barrier earlier this year.
Oh.
Who was that? It was Brittany Force. And
I'm sorry. Just the name.
Yes, her last name is Force.
I'm sorry. That's a comic book character.
I'm sorry if that's your last name, that is your destiny. You're destined to be a racing driver. I'm sorry.
That or a superhero, one of the two.
Yep. And she now holds the fastest NHRA speed record in history.
Oh my goodness. I got so caught off guard by that. What?
Yep. Yeah, and she comes from a whole she's on a whole family of racing drivers. Her dad is actually one of the winningest funny car drivers in history, John Force. And then she also has a sister that also used to race, though she has since kind of went into like semi-retirement because she was raising a kid. But I believe she wants to eventually come back one last time.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia. It doesn't show the 2025 winner yet. I'm guessing because it's not the end of the year.
No, it has not been fully settled yet. Though a couple of drivers in the NHRA classes have already locked in their wins for the year. Because they were like so far ahead in the points championship that literally nobody could mathematically catch them. Even if they did not compete whatsoever.
Okay, fair enough. And yeah, the Force must be a pretty big name because apparently they have the most funny car wins.
Yeah, John Force has been competing in funny cars since the 1970s, I want to say. Was when he first started.
If you want to know like the degree in which he won, according to Wikipedia, John has 157 wins. Want to know how much the person in second place has?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's like half that.
Yeah, a little less than half, actually. 76. That is insane. That's actually really insane.
Yeah, he was an absolute dominating force. No pun intended, in his division. Like nobody could touch how good he was at driving.
Yeah. Okay, this is like a random thought I've had, but I've heard this term before in racing. I know this isn't like directly car related, but racing related. Have you ever heard of the term heel toe maneuver?
Yes. So that can refer to either that is either when you that's either seen in rally racing or typically more seen in like drifting. So what that actually means is that when you do the heel toe maneuver is that your heel is on the gas pedal and your toe touches the clutch.
Okay.
And what you're basically doing is that you're riding the clutch while feathering the throttle to actually control power output. Typically, and you can only do this in a manual transmission car, obviously.
Oh yeah,
because no other car has a clutch pedal.
Yeah, so I remember. Yeah, I just remember watching like there was like this one scene in Zenless Zone Zero, and I was like reading the comments of that one cutscene because I thought it was cool, and everyone was freaking out about how the character did an actual heel toe maneuver.
Are you talking about the lady that that drives the scooter?
No, the truck driver.
Oh yeah, that's right. He actually does a real heel toe maneuver. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Piper was the character.
Oh, that's right. That's Piper. It's been a while since I played ZZZ.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I forgot the name too. All right. So that was like the random thought I had in my head. So let's try to pull this into some more, conclusional statements and concepts we should probably pull out of this,
Mm-hmm.
My first thought is, so, fixing cars up, that's like your main thing. Do you recommend other people to sort of get into that? You think it's something that...
It would entirely depend upon like your proclivity to actually like learn stuff, and also if you have like a tendency to really love taking things apart and actually working on them. If you could do that, I would highly recommend trying working on your own car and actually looking at like how to do things like one of the most simple things that you can probably do to actually learn how to do is change your own oil. It's actually a lot easier than you think.
Okay.
Like, because literally most cars with the oil change, it's literally unscrew one plug, let the oil drain out, put the plug back in, unscrew your oil filter, let the oil drain out of that, replace the oil filter, go to the top of your engine, unscrew the cap that actually says oil on it, fill it full of the right amount of oil according to your manual, you're done.
Okay. So... I can say that I'm a tall guy and also kind of lanky. It's hard for me to like really get under my car. And like
Well, I mean, there are many tools that you can actually use to actually pick a car up and actually get under it. Have you ever seen a jack before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Those seem kind of scary to me, I'm not going to lie.
It is a little bit scary, but when you actually get used to how stable a good jack and a set of jack stands can be, you're always pretty confident. I've never had an incident before where I didn't 100% trust the jack, but I've had a couple like really tiny close calls, but nothing to the point that it threatened anyone's life or health. Mainly it was just the condition of the car, because I was out of the way, and if there was ever the chance that it would fall, the only thing that would be hurt would be the vehicle and not me or anyone else that was in the garage with me.
All right. So like that's like one of the first things you recommend someone learning how to do is like oil changes?
Yes, because it's the easiest and most inexpensive thing you can ever do with learning how to work on your own car. There are some other things that are, a little bit easier to kind of do yourself, like say, a very common thing that people don't realize that you got to do with your car is also rotate your tires. Which is basically you literally relocate which wheel is on which corner of the car. So typically if you have like say a four-wheel drive car, typically the way that you do it is if you have four of the same wheel, all you have to do is you simply swap corner to corner, or you do corner to corner, I'm sorry. So you basically cross where they are in an X pattern, or you do a tire rotation of simply side to side, which is usually what I do because I have a two-wheel drive car.
How important is it to rotate your tires?
A lot more important than you think, because tires do not wear 100% evenly. They actually wear unevenly at times. So if you know if you rotate your tires on the regular, they will wear much more evenly and they will last longer.
All right. That's
And that also kind of puts into perspective of having proper suspension alignment on the car, because if your suspension is out of alignment, your tires can wear very unevenly, and also they can wear out very quickly.
Okay. How often do you recommend someone rotate their tires?
Typically you want to do that at least every I want to say like every 15,000 miles or so.
Ooh.
So it takes a while, but after you get like a fresh set of tires, then you have to like rotate them. And then you just simply like, keep a close eye on them. The most modern cars nowadays, they will actually have tire sensors on them that actually detect how many pounds per square inch of air is actually inside of them, and they will warn you if it gets low. Though some cars they don't have that, and you just have to simply check it manually on your own. Though the easy way to tell that your tire is low on pressure is that if you look at it straight on and you see the sides of it kind of sag outwards at the bottom, that tells you your tire is low on pressure and it needs to be inflated.
Oh my goodness. I won't lie. When I first heard the term rotate your tires, my first thought is, well, of course you rotate them. They always do that.
No, rotate where they are on the car.
Yeah, no, I know. It was one of those road work ahead moments,
Yeah, and then you just simply say to yourself, but they rotate all the time, forehead.
Okay. Fair enough.
If car move, wheel rotate.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting just how we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of like how much we're confident in our skills working on our cars. Because I would feel terrified just trying to do an oil change, because I can't even, like, I'm in my current situation because I tried to replace the radio in my car.
Wait, your car's in the shop because you tried to replace the radio?
Okay, I think I can go ahead and talk about this because it's funny and it just leads.
What?
Okay. What the fuck? Let me explain. There were some other issues in the car for a while. My driver's side back door. What do you call that? Like
driver's side back door. That would just simply be like your driver's side rear door. There's really nothing fancy to say about that.
Yeah, driver's side rear door. Where I let someone into the back seat. That has gone through multiple issues, including me accidentally pulling off the handle of my car after I was mad after a day of work.
Mm-hmm.
Where I actually, I tore it out of my car.
Oh.
Luckily, it was the back door, so I could still drive it. That's been about like that for a year. Also, I got into an accident a while ago, and ever since then, the same door just doesn't lock, and I can't mess with the windows anymore. So that whole door
doesn't want to lock, and then it's then that door to me, just for looking from the outside in, the door sounds like it's bent.
It looks perfectly fine except for the missing handle, but other than that, it looks fine. But then, but slowly but surely, my car has been slowly, the radio stopped working. I can say this, it's a Toyota Camry. It's my car. Great car.
I am not going to insult that because a Camry is a great get around town car because they will run until the sun freaking burns out.
Yeah, it was like my first car I ever got, and it's still running amazing. The problem is that the model I use is actually pretty well known for the radio to slowly stop working. It's
you mean it just would just simply just suddenly stop working, or would you have things like what? Like speakers go out or speakers sound really fuzzy?
Well, radio works. It's just it can't connect to my phone anymore. The touchscreen stopped working. The buttons to control it stopped working. I couldn't.
Oh, so you would probably have to replace that entire center console module, because I've seen them before that they come out as one big piece, and then you got to put a whole new one in there.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So my roommate had a buddy who was interested in doing that kind of thing, and said that they were pretty good at it.
Oh, I know how this is gonna end.
And my roommate said, "Hey, do you mind if he does that with your car? I have some stuff on my car I want to do, and I kind of want to test him a little, and I think a radio change would be, light enough work."
Right.
Well, the first problem is we bought the wrong radio set. And to replace it. And while they were in there, my roommate...
Question about the radio that you tried to buy. Was it a stock radio from Toyota, or was it an aftermarket radio?
It wasn't a stock one from Toyota, I can tell you that much.
So it was aftermarket.
Yeah. We realized it.
So it's probably something from Alpine or whatever.
Yeah, so we realized it didn't quite work, and as we were trying to put everything back together, we noticed there were some problems. And when everything was put back in, it's an automatic transmission. So as I was trying to leave, or leave a day later, to head out and do some chores, I found the stick shift. It was stuck. I couldn't move it.
Oh no.
There's typically an anti-theft system that keeps it in park unless certain things happen.
I know exactly what is probably happening is that you probably, when you tried to replace the radio, you probably tripped something in the anti-theft system, and now don't tell me the car can't move whatsoever.
We figured out how to get the manual override though.
Oh, so you did find the override in it. Okay.
Yeah, it's not too hard. I just have to stick a pencil inside of it every time I take it off park. But yeah, that's the thing that finally made me go, you know what, I'm just going to take it down to the shop. And then all those little things I messed up on it started piling on. Like, I also need to get the handle fixed and everything. The good news is, I don't have to worry. My roommate's covering the bill. Like, that's his apology.
Well, that's awfully great, graceful of him. I will definitely applaud that.
I mean, yeah, he feels really bad about how broken my car got because of it. There's also a bunch of other blown fuses and such. And I remember someone telling me that, yeah, if your car was like a few years older, you probably would have burst into flames by now. I'm like, oh, great. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, he's covering
typically when you have like stuff going on, like, you know, like blown fuses and stuff like that, there are like, you know, risky things about, like, you know, with the electrical system that can present as you know, problems with the car that can result in fires, because when a fuse is actually blown, an electrical fire can start from the circuit trying to complete itself across a blown fuse. So it is good that like someone actually told you that you were in you know, you were in the shop, and actually someone said, you know, oh, I'm glad we actually caught this when we did.
Yeah.
But thankfully, though, the fuses on a car are not the most expensive thing. I mean, you're talking like maybe a few dollars each one.
Well, the problem is they keep charging me diagnostic fees for every little thing. I was like, come on, man.
Okay, that I will ding them for, because usually when they do, at least from my experience, when they do like a diagnosis, they will do like one big diagnosis and run everything up all at once.
Yeah, I should probably preface saying this isn't just like a generic shop I went to. I had to go to a Toyota dealership to get some of this fixed.
This is why you're probably being nickeled and dimed then. It's Toyota.
Yeah, I know, but it's an old enough car that's not easy to find in the parts for. And I'm not.
Yeah, I can get that.
And I'm not going to go try fixing it myself. We've already seen what kind of problems happen when we start fixing things.
That's very true.
But honestly, at least some people in this world know how cars work, namely you.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's the... Thank you very much for all of the information you provided. That was a really great talk, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. And if you want to ever, like, you know, kind of do like a part 2 or anything like that, I would definitely be willing to kind of tighten up the conversation to something else a little bit more specific in the car world. But I mean, you know, that's entirely up to you.
I will put you on the guest list coming up. I can already think of a few people who already have their names in front of you, but once I get through that, you're right up back up. Okay, buddy? I'll give you a warning. Don't worry.
All right. All right.
But until then, thank you very much, class, for showing up. This has been a lot of fun. I love talking to people, and I love learning new things. So this is something I'm hoping to do maybe once every other week, if I'm lucky. But I'm not 100% confident, see how long I can keep that up. I will try to get one out the week after next. But until then, class, I've been Alistair Novum. Thank you, Moku, for showing up again.
Oh, always.
This is the time where you start plugging your stuff.
Oh, I mean, let's see. For me, what have I got coming up? I'll definitely be doing some streams next week. Next week will actually be the next episode of my own little podcast, which is called Gunplug Grunts and Games. We will be doing a huge episode where we will be ranking our favorite units from Super Robot Wars Original Generation. So we will be spending all day like actually discussing all of the the hero units from that game series and seeing what we all believe of where they belong in terms of like how cool they are.
All right. Also, his Twitch. Do you have a YouTube?
Not yet, but that will be coming in the near future. I'll be revealing that when the time is right.
Fair enough. Thank you, class, for showing up today. I've been Alistair Novum. I believe I just heard the bell. You're all dismissed. Bye. Detention.